What time is it?
Tea time!
And welcome back to Tea Time, episode 13. This is Tea Time. I am Trenton. And so this day's episode, we're going to be doing a little reflection on the NFL playoffs, what happened with the national title game, talking a little bit of NBA, a little bit of baseball, not really a whole lot, but just a little bit, give you a taste, a little bit of a primer setup for signing day, and a little bit of Ducks. But let's start with Monday night and the college football national championship, the rematch from last year with Clemson versus Alabama. As you may know, I picked Alabama, and it was hard to pick against them. I thought their defense was going to pull through. I thought Deshaun Watson would have a great game, but one pick that was leading to points would ultimately be the downfall of Clemson in that game. And I was wrong. Clemson was able to pull it out in dramatic fashion, leaving a second on the clock with a touchdown late, and able to get that demon off their back, able to get that national title for Clemson and really get rid of the whole Clemsoning moniker. But the funny part is, the very reason why I picked Alabama is the reason that kept him in the game, but also didn't win it for him. Because there was 2 turnovers, 2 big ones caused by Alabama, and they got 3 points off of it, which is not what I thought they would do. This is the number 1 scoring defense in some time, 17 defensive touchdowns on the season, and I thought they'd take an interception for 6 or fumble return or something, and they just weren't able to do anything with it. Clemson's defense was able to stave them off, hold on, and give Deshaun Watson that time he needed to eventually pick apart this Bama defense, tire him out, and beat him. And they did such in such a dramatic fashion, which has to be probably the best national title game we've had in some time, and I'd argue the greatest national title game we've ever had. It didn't disappoint. People harken back to the Texas versus USC back in 2003, Vince Young walking in the touchdown that ended up winning them the game. But I think this one is almost better because it's Alabama. It's that dynasty, the great evil empire in Clemson, who's known for choking, which made the term Clemsoning, always finding a way to do something wrong to take themselves out of it. But it was nice to see. I was happy I was wrong. I wanted Clemson to win. I just didn't think they could do it. I knew Deshaun Watson was a great player and should have been the Heisman. But in the end, it came through. It happened. But kind of to backtrack a little bit with that in the playoff, I may have a solution for probably one of the most talked about things before the playoff even started. You have the debate between who should have been in the playoff. And people say Penn State should have been over Washington. People say Michigan should have been over Washington. Said Ohio State shouldn't have been in there to begin with because they didn't even win their conference. It all comes down to, what does the committee want most? Do they want the 4 best teams or the 4 teams they feel are the best? Or do you have to follow the criteria of strength of schedule, winning your conference, all these things? Washington won their conference, but they had the weakest schedule by far in all of football. Penn State won their conference, but they had 2 losses. Then you had Michigan, who really didn't belong in the conversation because they controlled their own destiny and lost late. And then you have Ohio State, who had a loss to Penn State and didn't win their conference. Were able to beat Michigan at home late in the year, but it wasn't enough. It actually allowed Penn State instead of Michigan. They really only succeeded to keep Michigan from the playoff. But then the Big Ten, I believe, ended up losing all of their bowl games but like 2. So not a good showing for the Big Ten. But the way I look at it, if you want to try and solve the problem in a way, maybe the problem of who should really be in there. Here's a way that's going to be way outside the box until you're able to keep it at 4 teams. No more the other 5. You have the Power 5 and then the Group of 5. No more of that. I think every team needs to be put into one of the Big 5 conferences. Every last one of them. There's a few teams that are planning on going down, which will make the numbers add up to be correct. But I think every single conference needs to have that, which would put 24 teams in every conference. And I think that is a must. And they need to make it to where you split it 12 and 12 in half for each conference. So the Pac-12 would be the Pac-24. And there'll be 12 teams on each side. Boise would go in there. Like the teams that make most sense for their conferences. The majority of the Group of 5 conferences, their teams are in the same area. Like they're not really too far away. They make sense. Like the Mountain West, easy fit into the Pac-12. And then you have the Sun Belt, which is a very easy fit into the ACC. You have, I believe it's Conference USA, the MAC. The MAC is pretty much all Midwest, very easy fit into the Big Ten. Some very pushes and pulls everywhere. But you put it all into their respective conferences. And you don't fade the other side. You have the North, the South, the East, the West, the champions, the legends, who cares? They play the 11 other teams in their division in one out-of-conference game. Just one. So you have to schedule right. You got to pick. Now, it's a little bit of luck, a little bit of not, but that will help. But here's the deal. You could even make it just a random drawing. You don't know who you're going to play out of conference. Or maybe make it an FCS team. I mean, I guess that could work. Everyone gets a payday for the first game of the season. Woohoo. But you do that, you eliminate that, and then the 2 conference champions will play. At the very, very worst, you could have 5 undefeated teams. At the very worst, which will give you a problem. Now, the odds of that happening are still very slim to none. But say you have 4 undefeateds, that could work out. But more than likely, you won't see more than 2 if there's 2. And then you take the next back records for whoever won their conference. It will be between the 5 who won their conference, period. And there's ways you can push and pull, but that's an out of way the box where you truly know. And there'll be none of this strength of schedule really truly mattering, because if you can win your division and then win your championship game and you have the better record, then you're in. Almost every division would be pretty evened out. You'd have to, spread the wealth, do recruiting, whatnot. Now that's probably the most far-fetched way of fixing that you'll ever going to hear, and you heard it from me. But it's a way to fix it, because I'm tired of people clamoring for 8 games, and I'm tired of people saying, oh, they belong, they don't belong. Penn State lost their game to USC. Yeah, it was on a last-minute field goal and a mistake by the quarterback and offensive coordinator for even running that play to get picked. But Penn State didn't belong in there. They didn't. Washington was the rightful team to go in there. There's no need to put 2 teams from one conference. Oklahoma didn't belong in there. They lost twice, once to Ohio State. The only team you have a legitimate argument to not put in there is Ohio State, because not only did Ohio State not win their conference, Ohio State got smacked by Clemson. Just smacked. Yeah, hindsight's 20/20, but they got smacked. Are they really one of the best 4 teams? They had some solid wins, but I mean, that's why we're here. That's why we debate. But yeah, I'm not gonna go with Ohio State should be in there. I think Penn State won their conference. They had a better argument. I think Oklahoma won their conference. They had a better argument. But in the end, the committee is going to pick who they want to pick, and that's part of the problem, but also part of the solution. Would you rather have a computer pick it? Because that's why we're in this mess to begin with. Or maybe we should just go to 8 and solve the problem. You make the 5 power conferences the automatic qualifiers, the winners of those conferences, and then the next 3 best teams. That could be just what you need. But moving on, we're going to switch gears and go to the NFL playoffs, where I am not doing so great. I went 2-2. Yeah, but my Super Bowl teams are still alive. The Texans, to my surprise, were in that game until the 4th quarter, and then Brock Osweiler started being Brock Osweiler. They actually followed the blueprint that I gave for them. Getting vertical on the DBs, moving Brady out of the pocket, make him make the mistakes and take advantage, and don't make mistakes of your own. They did that for almost 3 quarters, and then it all fell apart, and Brock Osweiler started being Brock Osweiler. Which, by the way, if I'm the Houston Texans, I'm calling Jay Cutler and Tony Romo, because they're still above average quarterbacks. Tony Romo can be an elite quarterback when he wants to, but I'll take Jay Cutler over everybody on the Houston Texans roster for QBs over the last 3 years. But that being said, Patriots won. I had the Seahawks beating the Falcons. I couldn't have been more wrong. Seahawks just couldn't keep up. Too hurt. Missing Earl Thomas just didn't help, and they just couldn't get it going. Devin Hester did his job, but holding penalties brought back 2 big returns for a total of 160 yards. And when stuff like that happens, you're going to lose. Just period. And I was wrong about that. Green Bay Packers kept themselves alive with a last-second field goal against Dallas. Well-fought game. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit more of a believer in Dallas now because of that fight they give. I'm a little bit more of a believer in Dak Prescott. Do I believe Tony Romo makes this team better? Yes, but it's too late to turn back now. Dak, you made your bet of Dak, you have to live with it. I think he can be a fine young quarterback going forward. I think at the very least he could be a younger, more athletic Alex Smith, which that is not me dissing him. That's actually a compliment because there's a lot of guys who are not even Alex Smith. But I think they have a bright future. I think they're going to own that division for the years to come, especially if they can keep that offensive line together. And then the final game, Steelers versus Chiefs, which was a very interesting game. The Steelers win 18-16 on 6 field goals. And let's just say that's not very impressive. They had the yards, they just couldn't punch it in. I was more impressed with what Kansas City was able to do. And they were a holding call away from tying the game and going into overtime, which I definitely would have given them the edge. But the Steelers held fast and were able to advance. Now, as far as the next round go, my picks do not change. I think New England handles Steelers just fine. I know that if the Steelers offense gets clicking, can the Patriots keep up? But the Patriots have a better defense than the Steelers. And I don't think the Steelers' offense is a massive amount better than the Patriots' offense. I think the gap is smaller between those two than it is between the defenses. But I'm sticking with New England. I think they win. I think it'll be a tough game. But going to Foxborough, only 2 teams have done it the last 50 home games. And I don't think this is going to be the third. And then on the other side of things, we have Green Bay going to Atlanta. I'm impressed with Matt Ryan, but not impressed enough. I don't think they win this game. I think this game could go like Dallas's game, where it just as easily could be a very close game with a field goal at the end, or just as easy would be a Des Bryant tackle away from a pick 6 that blows the game open. It's just one of those things. I just can't bet against Aaron Rodgers right now. He's the best player in all of football. Yes, better than Tom Brady. And I think he's going to lead his team to a Super Bowl, and I think he's going to lead his team over the Patriots in the Super Bowl. And I'm keeping to it. I said it 2 weeks ago. I'm going to keep saying it now. I think Aaron Rodgers is the MVP. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to win his 2nd Super Bowl. And I have a hard time not saying that. But we're going to take a quick ad break, come back, and talk about some NBA. Trenton here from Tea Time with Trenton, your Eugene Sports podcast, and I want to talk to you about a nice little store called Got Socks. They can fill all your sock needs. They have everything from sport socks, cool designs, as well as catchphrases and words like bacon. They have the right price and the right sock to fit your needs. They're located at the east entrance of the Valley River Center Mall, right across the way from the Oregon Duck store and the food court. So if you got needs, they got socks. And we're back. And we're going to talk a little bit of NBA. Definitely has been a somewhat interesting season. A lot of big men taking the world by storm. Boogie Cousins signing a $200 million extension to stay with the Kings. Joel Embiid has just been a phenom since finally being able to play a game. But Cleveland still showing their dominance, trading for Kyle Korver. Golden State looks like they're finally clicking, getting it done. If I was to right now actually pick who I think might be in the championship, which, is way too early and won't be my official pick, but I'm going to give you what I think right now. I think Cleveland goes, and I don't think they're really challenged. But I also think there's a possibility. Nope, I'm going to call it. I have this feeling I think the Clippers are going to make it to the finals. Yes, the Los Angeles Clippers. For some reason, I feel like this is the year Chris Paul comes through and really leads his team there. It just seems like I think Golden State isn't quite there yet as a team. I think there's a few things holding them back about meshing. But I just have this weird gut feeling that Chris Paul and those Clippers are going to be there in the finals. I don't think they can beat the Cleveland Cavaliers, but I think Clippers will make a deal at the deadline and something that we won't expect, and I think they might actually finally get there. Now, I don't think they win, but I still think they're going to get there. But the deadline's looming. Our Blazers are hovering around the 8 seed, not sure where they're going to go with that. But a topic that's kind of really been around floating is the mysterious Derrick Rose disappearing. Derrick Rose didn't inform the team he wasn't going to be at the game, and he just decided not to show up. Later contacted the team, telling them for family reasons, but it was just an odd situation. Derrick Rose just disappearing. There was actually Twitter post of where's Derrick Rose, like he was a missing person or something, which is something of an odd. Derrick Rose hasn't been himself the last few years. He's definitely having a good year in New York this year, but it was later to be revealed that there was rumors that he went to go see his family, partially because he didn't know if he wanted to play basketball anymore, which is concerning for New York and concerning for anyone looking to sign him this off season. And I think kind of was a bad move on his part. I mean, yeah, it's just a game, it's basketball, but the thing is, he is being paid just like that McDonald's cashier is getting paid to show up to work. This is work for him. It's not just a game. And him not even calling ahead of time to let them know he won't be there, that gets a lot of people fired. That's what we call a no call, no show in retail. And obviously he's not going to get fired or cut for that reason. But it's definitely something that's going to be a hindrance, especially with the season moving forward. And I just think it's not a good move by Derrick Rose. I think New York should suspend him afterwards, but the next game they played him. I think this New York team and what Phil Jackson's building, I think he has some promise in Kristaps Porzingis, but I think he needs to just cut loose these veterans that he thought he could try and win now and win later with. I say you just rebuild. I think you just tear it all down, see what you can get for Rose at the deadline. I hear LeBron's looking for a point guard. See what you can get for Carmelo Anthony. He still will have a pretty piece. I don't know, maybe the Clippers. Drop Joakim Noah. I mean, still a solid player, but injuries is really taking a toll on his career. Courtney Lee is another great role-playing piece. It's just, I think they just need to get rid of that money, get rid of those players, and literally say, here's my centerpiece, Kristaps Porzingis, and just slowly build around him. He's not in his prime yet. I believe he's only 22 years old, if that. Just take your time, do it right, build it right, get what you need. Because players like Porzingis don't come around very often. He's great defensively. He can block shots, rebound, and he has three-point range, and real three-point range, not Al Horford and Boogie Cousins three-point range. He can actually probably win a three-point contest and do it consistently. But all around, I think that's what Phil Jackson needs to do. If he wants to win back this fan base and get this going in the right direction, you just have to give up on the win now and go to the win later. Get as many draft picks as you can. Maybe you can somehow turn one of those veterans to the Sixers to get Jahlil Okafor. That would be a nice pairing, the two of them. You have the offense in Okafor and the defense and offense in Porzingis. You might have the start of something good there. You never know. But definitely change needs to happen with this Derrick Rose thing. And it's just not a good move. It's not a good look. It's just not a good time in New York. And New York's been wanting to win for a long time, and I don't think they've won a playoff game. No, I think they did win a playoff game, but I don't think they actually were of anything known since they were the 8th seed and then ended up getting beat down by the Spurs in the finals. But that's what little NBA action I have for you. And when we come back from this ad break, we're going to touch on a little bit of baseball. We're going to touch on a little bit on the Ducks, and then we're going to wrap it up. Trenton here from Tea Time with Trenton, Eugene Sports Podcast. And if you need to get around town, Eugene Hybrid Taxi is the way to go. They have fast and friendly drivers as well as awesome owners. I would know. I'm one of their drivers. Call dispatch and make appointments for airport pickups or just, someplace to get around town, maybe go to a Duck game. And if you happen to get me as your driver, you tell me what time it is, I'll give you 10% off your next fare. Eugene Hybrid Taxi. Clean, friendly, and reliable. All right, welcome back. MLB, we're not going to talk too much about it right now just because there's not a whole lot to talk about. But pitchers and catchers report here in a few weeks, and the season's going to get rolling. I'll have a primer. I'll have my picks. Do I think the Cubs are going to repeat and whatnot? Who do I think will be real contenders? Like I did last season when I first started this podcast last April. As well as we'll get more into NBA in the next coming weeks with the deadline coming up, with things starting to really get geared up. We're going to see the separation. We're going to see the All-Star game. We're going to see who's really got a real shot to win it all and who doesn't. And the closer we get to those things, the more we'll talk about it on here. And just to get a little bit of Duck talk in for you Eugenians, and a little bit of Oregon State as well. Oregon State hosted some pretty big recruits this last weekend, including 4-star Duck target Bruce Judson from Florida and 3-star safety Trajan Cotton. And Cotton tweeted out, little brother about to become big brother in Oregon, which I'm pretty confident. Seems like he's leaning toward Oregon State there and wants to really do something up there in Corvallis. And I see the arrow definitely pointing up with them. They remind me of a Utah and Stanford team a few years ago who just got a few wins they needed. You got their first Pac-12 win against Cal, and then, of course, they won the Civil War. So they have some confidence and something to build on, and I think they're only going to build up. I think it will be a slow build, just like Utah was. Stanford kind of bum-rushed everybody when they came up with Jim Harbaugh. But I think they're going to a bowl game next year. I think they'll go 6-6. And I think they'll be a completely different team, beaming with confidence. And only the sky's pointing up, the arrow's pointing up, everything's going good for them. I think Gary Williams is doing a lot of good there. And then you go over to the Ducks. Jaylen Brown has announced he is transferring. He had a real promising career with the Ducks. He had a great season this year, really breaking out, really coming along. And, he had being 2 more years left of his eligibility, we thought he would be a future bright spot. But he's decided to go elsewhere. He's going to finish his degree over the summer and then graduate transfer with 2 years left. You have a lot of visits from recruits, more hires by Coach Taggart. Taggart's done a great job at who he's hired. He's now stolen Mario Cristobal from Alabama. Yes, the Alabama, and he was ranked the number 2 recruiter. And he's now with us over here in Eugene. And has that moniker of recruiting, which, a lot of people think there's been a lacking of. But they're doing their thing. They're riding their ship. And then you have Cal coming in and actually hiring former Duck Justin Wilcox to be their head coach. And Justin Wilcox has his eyes on some former assistants. He's officially hired offensive lineman Steve Greatwood. He's brought in Bo Baldwin to be his offensive coordinator. So they're definitely gonna have things turning around. I think with that staff, is the Pac-12 is getting better. When signing days come around here on February 1st, and I'm gonna break down the Ducks, the Beavers, and the rest of the Pac-12, and give prediction of where I think they might go. A really early prediction about how I think it's gonna go. I think Washington's still gonna have the advantage over everybody, and more likely win the conference again. But you never know; things could change. I think there's some teams that are heading down still, and I think there's some teams heading up. but only time will tell. But to get to a little bit of a soapbox here, what is going on with you Duck fans? You need to get a little bit of a grip. You're on this high horse. You're walking around like this team who's so great, yet we've won nothing. We have won nothing. We've been to 2 national titles. That is it. You're acting like the fans you used to despise, but the difference is those fans have won something. Bama fans, Bama's won national titles. Notre Dame fans, they've won national titles. Ohio State, they've won national titles. USC, same thing. And you're acting just like all of them. I don't know if you realize this. Yes, we are one of the powerhouse teams. We are a perennial top 25 team, top 25 recruiting class, always in the spotlight. We are one of those teams everybody knows about now. But we're one of those teams, but we haven't won anything. Stop acting like we have. I'm sorry, I have to side with Aaron Fentress here. Aaron Fentress is one of the guys that was with me that thought Helfrich shouldn't have been fired. And everyone and everything is going after him with some of the recent things that have come out, how Helfrich kind of lost control of the ship. Players not showing up to meetings, players not doing their preseason workouts like they're supposed to, and just all around losing control of his team, which all being true, but that doesn't change my mind. That doesn't change his mind. It's not going to change football minds on whether or not they thought Helfrich should or should not have been fired. And it's kind of ridiculous because I'll post you this question, and I want you to be absolutely and completely honest with yourselves and with me. If Oregon was winning, say they won 9 regular season games and they won their bowl game last year, do you even care with what's going on with the players? Do you care they're late to meetings? Do you care they have to be rounded up out of bars by Steve Greatwood? Do you care about the negative things? I don't believe you if you said you do. I honestly believe you wouldn't care if we were winning. I highly doubt it. I've spoken to plenty of Duck fans who didn't care about what happened with Masoli as long as we're winning. People forget like Michael James had his run-in with his girlfriend, but no one cared because he was still a great player. And if you go to any other campus, same things are happening. You can say it doesn't happen to Saban. Guess what? It does happen to Saban. You can pretend like it doesn't, but it does. Every coach has these players. Every coach has these run-ins. Every coaches have these times when things aren't looking good. And guess what? They get worse when you lose. Everything is fine when you're winning. Everything's rock bottom when you lose. Period. What do you think the players at Notre Dame are doing? Go look into that. I guarantee you they're having the same problems. It's just they're kids. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to do dumb things. Mark Helfrich couldn't be with them 24/7, just like Taggart can't be with them 24/7. I bet you in 3 years, if you went back and checked on it, some players are doing the exact same things. And unfortunately, the higher the talent, the more the entitlement. It's a fact. I mean, I'm not saying every player that has a lot of talent is going to be entitled and do things they're not supposed to, but majority of the time, they're the ones that are doing it, not the lower level recruits, not the lower level players that aren't considered superstars right away. It's usually the players, like 4 and 5 star recruits, are the ones that are doing it. Like I said, I'm not trying to say all, but that generally, the higher the talent you get, the more attitude you get, more prima donnas. It's just the way life works. It's the way everyone's built. If you're super confident, guess what? Do you really care about rules that much? There's a thin line. And players cross it all the time because these are 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds. I mean, what did you do when you were 21 or 20? You did stupid things. I know I did. I'm 27. But just take a breath. Take a step back. Who cares if you agree with Aaron Fentress or myself or Joe Blow up the block? What's done is done. Helfrich is gone. If you want to sit there and pile on him and be a part of the Wolves that have come out to play, go for it. It doesn't change the fact Helfrich was actually a very good coach. It doesn't change the fact Willie Taggart's not guaranteed to turn the program around. It doesn't change the fact that Helfrich had one losing season. That doesn't make him a bad coach. It doesn't change the fact that we'll get recruits that we get and that is it. You're not going to change that player who decides, I want to be late to meetings. You're not going to change that player who wants to break rules. It's just like you're not going to change the player who doesn't want to break rules, who wants to be doing what he's supposed to do. Players play, coaches coach, and then there's all the gray area in between. And most fans, all they care about is winning. They don't care how it's done. They just care that it's done. Every college has the problem. Every team has those players. Everybody has problems. I like where Taggart's going. I like his Twitter presence. I like his coaching hires. I like the fact that he's out there busting his rear end to recruit. But we'll see how good he is. We don't know yet. Brand new offense, brand new day. It's time we do something. It's no longer win the day. But that's pretty much all I have to say about that. But that's it for this episode. Like I said before, as we get closer to things, we'll break them down more. Still kind of the shorter end of the episode. Still kind of re-getting my chops back, knocking off that rust. But thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for listening. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Facebook. Give me your opinions. Give me your feedback. If you disagree with me, that is A-okay. Most people do. And until that time.
What time is it?